Welcome to Vox Scream, a kill team podcast where we aim to help players of all skill levels supercharge their game and separate the signal from the noise. I'm Mark Meyer, joined by kill team heavyweights George Pratt and Joe Gallo. We're coming to you from the Triangle region in North Carolina. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show. Welcome back to Vox Scream. Good to spend time once again with Joe Gallo and George Pratt. Guys, we may have bitten off a little bit more than we can chew.
Yeah, so originally we had decided to go in depth and do 3 teams a week, or try and do the super factions all at once. We only got through 3 last week, and getting through 3 a week would take us like 3 months. So instead, we're just doing what we think are probably the top 3, so that it doesn't take us 3 months. It takes us a normal amount of time.
Yeah, and I want to just add a giant caveat to this. A lot of this is vibes-based, though I will say between the 3 of us, we actually have seen quite a few games, including a tournament that we just had recently, literally a couple days ago now.
Yes, the data with which we can extrapolate and make our, our opinions, our educated guesses, whatever, is limited, just like everybody else's at this point. But I think some of this is like not so hard to figure out, like before we get into the meat and potatoes of our discussion today, I think it's fair if we give Imperium their due, since we tried to do that last week. Top 3 Imperium teams, I don't think anybody would say that Inquisition is not among the top 3 of Imperium teams. Non-Space Marines, of course.
Yeah, it is so bizarre how that team has been designed. The fact that the Kazarkin Trooper, the Recon Trooper, is literally better on Inquisition than it is on its own fucking team.
Well, the Kazarkin are better at Inquisition than their own team.
It's
somebody who just got rocked playing Kazarkin.
Yeah, it's very odd to me, the decisions that were made on that team. The fact that they went back on the not being able to get 3 AP or 3 AP guns on that team thing.
They can't get 3 AP2 guns. It's not possible.
Yeah, you can take 2 Meltas. That's kind of where they're at.
That's the only AP2 guns on the team. You can take a maximum of 2 Meltas.
Oh, I'm thinking of being able to take the plasma pistol, the Melta.
Yeah, you could take a bunch of AP1 guns.
Right, but my point is that, like, considering that plasma pistols have been toned down, I think that was their justification for that.
Yeah, which is fine. And Warp Coven and Nurgle Legionaries can just ignore AP1.
Yeah, my point is that, like, I mean, let's take another example. The fucking Eviscerator guy.
So
why
good
does
now.
Why does he hit on 3s?
Good now. Should have hit on 3s to begin with, because it's a melee specialist, and their team needs good melee specialists.
Name me how many melee operatives with that good of a melee profile hit on 3s in the game.
The Space Marine Captain.
There you go. Congratulations. You found the one operative who is a
Exarch
Space Marine
with the biting blade.
So let's talk about the lore about that a little bit. An Exarch, a master who has trained in exactly one art for hundreds of years, and thousands of years, and then a Space Marine captain who has fought through hundreds of battles
and one really angry boy. Yeah, and one makes sense to me.
The Crimson Duelist, actually a more skilled fighter than all of them. Crazy enough.
Yep.
I was initially upset about that, but I thought about it, and I think the justification is that he's not using like a normal melee weapon. He's using like a flail. And
also, the Crimson Duelist has spent more time in the fighting pits of Kamara than even the Exarch was learning the arts of the blade.
Yeah, I think that is also a fair justification. I'm a little less upset about that now, but I do think it is actually like a very funny, like, in lore thing.
All right, but we are getting off track. So we got through 1. Yeah. This was supposed to be a very short segment, so we can get on to the meat and potatoes. I think probably Star Striders are another top 3 team of non-Space Marine Imperium. And then probably Novitiates is the 3rd.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Because the problem is none of these Imperium teams are elite teams. All of these teams will struggle into elites because elites are incredibly strong. So when we say these are the top 3 teams, that is with the giant caveat with maybe not including Inquisition, though I think Inquisition will still struggle into elites because everyone's going to struggle into elites. Is just that there is a giant power armored man standing in the doorway haunting us all right now. And that's just kind of how it has to be. And I'm not even saying that that's particularly a bad thing, because I actually don't think it is a particular bad thing either. But that being said,
So that's the top three. Imperium, we're really, really set on Inquisition being in there, and we're kind of vibing with Striders and Novitiates.
yeah, that is 100% vibe space.
I have played against novitiates in the new edition. I think the rules, like our friend Alex has said that they're a good team. They're just a very different team, and I'm inclined to agree with him. But like, there's so many interesting synergies. Like now that it is cheaper to guarantee crits than it is to guarantee hits, and you have the ploy that lets you get punishing against spent operatives. It's basically double value on your faith points because you're getting crits and retaining hits. I think it's pretty nutty.
And the duelist is real damage. 4/5 lethal 5 and kept its parry block with a crit still deal critical damage.
Oh gosh, like they're healing now when they're jumping into fights with their faith points. You can fight 4 times.
Well, that's going away.
That's really funny. We'll see. It's super funny.
That's like the Corsair pistol you're shooting 3 times. That's 100% going away.
The difference though is that the pistol problem is like a problem of wording, whereas the intention's not clear. The intention is clear as day on that particular operative. Yeah.
But let us continue on to our next topic before people get an aneurysm for hearing novitiates can fight 4 times.
Yeah. Well, we fought 3 times this weekend. We played at our first triangle Kill Team tournament in 3rd edition, or in Kill Team 2024, whatever you'd prefer. George ran that at the Gamers Armory in Cary. Joe ended up walking away with 3rd place playing Nemesis Claw. I played the Hearthkin Salvagers, and all 3 of my games were on Into the Dark. That was really, really interesting. But George, anything that you noticed that was super cool about the tournament?
I noticed that people were really nice to each other, and everyone sort of still figuring out the rules, the core rules, and their team's rules and stuff. So the just the sportsmanship on display was just top notch. I could not ask for a better group of people to come in and play in a tournament. I think the biggest thing that kept consistently surprising people was just Corsairs being able to be anywhere they wanted to be at any time they wanted to be there. And that just kept catching people off guard. It was a fun experience having to walk around and like point to windows and say this blocks invisibility and that one doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I lost to Corsairs, and I got crushed by Eddie, with the slight caveat that he was running an illegal loadout unintentionally, which did affect the game. He took the Wraith Cannon and the Blaster, which is Persona. You can only take the Shuriken Cannon and the Blaster, I believe. And then my first game was against you, Mark. That was an incredibly close game, even though you didn't think it was until the very end.
Oh yeah, I did not think it was close until we were calculating the score at the end, but it kind of just solidified in my mind just like how layered the scoring is now with crit op, kill op, tac op, primary. There's just so many different ways to score, and it makes the game so dynamic.
There might be my favorite part of the game now, like the way scoring works. It took away the problem that we had last edition, that like sometimes the mission just fucked you over. And so let's say I get a bad mission now. I have 2 other ways that my team is potentially good at scoring, and I can just do that version of the game, and even straight up just ignore the primary in some ways and just focus on my tac op and kill op. Some may not like that. I do like it because I think it plays into the team's styles, and I think it plays into the tactical nature of Kill Team, in that certain kill teams are better at doing other things. Some are better at completing the mission. Some are better at killing everyone so they can't complete the mission. And I like that flexibility that it gives us now. And my final game was against my buddy Drew, who I actually helped learn the game. And he's going to NYO with, I believe, either Phobos or Nemesis Claw. And I wish him luck there. And I gave him a decent thrashing in our last game. My overall I guess impressions right now, because I'm almost on game 10 now for third edition, and particularly with Nemesis Claw, that's actually the team I have the most games with now. Nemesis Claw are very strong. I think they're going to struggle into the top teams, which in my opinion are probably a little too overtuned. But that's the thing, is that everyone's going to struggle into them. But I do think every other team is going to struggle into Nemesis Claw because they're just so good at getting their hooks in and just killing everything they see. And their reliability is something they have over elite teams. Even that was the case in the last edition, it's even more so now. Particularly being able to keep the 3-inch charge after you fight is so strong, and it plays exactly how you need to. And Vox Scream is just as strong as it's ever been. I will say there is a very good chance you're going to see a precipitous drop off in this team's play rate because a lot of Nemclaw players are heading towards Legionnaire, which I don't blame them because they are the better team, straight up, not even questioning it. But I do think that Nemesis Claw is going to be the gentleman's elite team, the quote unquote fair elite team, in a lot of ways.
No, the fair elite team is Phobos.
Yeah, I would. Well, yeah,
and they're not particularly fair either.
Yeah, I was going to say they had some bullshit as well. But great play. Corsairs are incredibly strong.
Corsairs are very good.
Corsairs were they gained what they lacked: consistency. Even though they were always pretty much able to get where they want. But I think the big thing people are missing is that like the move and dash with them was always limited to 9 inches. So that in terms of that they can shoot and fight with it, they can now move 10 inches and do shooting and fighting. They weren't able to do that before. And I think that's a massive change to them, and it's allowing them to do very silly plays. And I don't know if they needed to keep their free dash, especially considering that literally no other Aeldari team in the current edition did. I think as we were talking pre-podcast, George, it's part of their identity. I think that was the justification. If this team does deserve any rebalancing, which I don't know if it does or it doesn't, that dash might be getting looked at. That is the part that just makes them a little over the top, because they, like George said, able to get wherever they want at any time, and kill you with consistency that will shock you. And if they spike, God help you, because then you're just going to get tabled.
Their other identity from last edition was if a Corsairs player rolls a critical hit, everything just goes better for them. And like that hasn't changed. They just got a little bit more rerolls to try and get that crit.
And in general, just to hit things in general, they got better at that.
I ended up playing against Stefan, who's playing Corsairs at the tournament as well. And I think that the rerolls are really, really good. You know, before they were taking plunderers like every turn.
Yep.
Whereas now Piratical Profiteers is like your bread and butter strategic ploy. I think that the idea of how Plunderers works now, especially to like position operatives for melee, that effectively gives you what's that? That's a 9-inch charge with an extra 3 inches of out of phase movement to get you into position. So that's effectively, that's a 13-inch threat range for melee.
And most teams in the game will crumble to their melee. I think also a huge problem is them all having power swords. Is a massive problem that even elites struggle a little bit into. In terms of the premier elite killing team, it might just be Corsairs.
I have some thoughts on the tournament too, but I want to kind of keep this conversation about Corsairs going because, spoiler alert, we're talking about the 3 teams in the Aeldari super faction today that we think are the best, and I think we all agree that Corsairs is certainly among that top 3. So many interesting plays with them. Using your Soul Weaver on Counteract to give out extra APL, what an amazing ability.
Or heal.
Absolutely.
So good.
Getting free CP with your equipment point, that's pretty
Once
good.
Again, I'm very hesitant to like make harsh judgments. So like they didn't need that. I think a weakness of this team could have been that they have
that they're fragile.
That they're limited in their CP.
Yeah,
it's like with Warcraft.
Or that they're fragile. Like they're supposed to be fast, hit hard, but be fragile. But like if you can just sort of heal on counteract and eliminate your fragility, then are you fragile?
Same thing with having the access to Mistfield too, like just being able to ignore piercing. I think that I want to say on the last episode or maybe the episode before that, and I mean in the last edition, I was saying, fairly frequently in small local circles that AP is, armor piercing was the best mechanic, the strongest mechanic in the game. Now I think that the strongest mechanic in the game is ignoring it, because the teams that can ignore it are the teams that don't need to have that ability. I would say.
And then their other psyker can be like, you have just a scratch.
Yeah, here's my big hot take. If you are not an elite team, you don't need to ignore armor piercing, and I'm looking at you, Void Dancers.
I mean, that is only once per turning point.
Yeah, but I agree with Joe in that Void Dancers just get it all the time.
Yeah, you're going to take that equipment piece in most matchups.
No, bear in mind, I don't think that any of the elf teams are going to be the tippy top of the meta because they are so fragile. And I do think even in the scenarios in which, oh yeah, they got a lot of AP in terms of like Hand of Archon having the Dark Lance and the Blaster, and Corsairs having the Fusion Pistol and the Blaster, more likely not to elites. At the end of the day, that's two guns, and power swords are not necessarily as threatening as they used to be. Their biggest advantage, I think, going into the next couple months, is that we're going to be playing a lot of Volcus, and Volcus is very dense, and it's very hard for elites to get their teeth into them because they are just faster. Particularly a scenario that came up in my game that I had not anticipated is that the Volcus buildings, the elves can just charge if you are sitting on that wall. If you do not have 7 inches of movement, you cannot charge them. And that's kind of a massive problem on some maps because the objectives are usually sitting in the open in the middle of those maps. And if your opponent can get to those and also kill you at the same time, and you can't, particularly if they have more activations than you would think counteract would solve that problem. It doesn't, because they can just, once again, go over wherever they need to, and react to you in ways that you can't really defend against unless you're Warp Coven or Legionnaire because you ignore piercing. So, like, for example, Phobos and Nemesis Claw are particularly weak to the Corsair shenanigans because they don't really have any defensive buffs. Phobos in particular, because they can just still get 2 tapped by power swords if you get 2 crits, which, given the amount of crit giving abilities they have, is more likely than not.
Joe, I will say, I do think that Flayed Skin is a defensive tool. If we look at our game over the weekend, your Screecher charged into my Thane and my Jump Pack Warrior, my 2 best melee operatives, and I was like, okay, he's going to trade pretty well here, but I'm still going to be able to kill the Screecher. Turning off rerolls with the Flayed Skin, it meant my Thane did 0 damage because I rolled 3 ones into 2.
To be fair, the Flayed Skin is actually redundant on the Screecher because he has the native ability to just shut off rerolls, period.
Precisely, but like you thought, like just thinking about it in that context where not all defensive tools directly relate to defensive mechanics.
Yes, but my point is that fighting was never what I was worried about for Nemesis Claw. Problem is that in Midnight Clad relies on the obscuring rule, and I think most of the top teams, if not all of them, have very consistent ways to ignore obscuring, and that shuts off your faction rule, and that feels really bad because it is that.
I mean, every team shuts off in Midnight Clad by just walking up to you. So like it's never been a good faction rule.
You have to get within 6 of me. That's fine because then you're playing into my game. At the end of the day, if Corsairs or Warp Coven can just shut off my faction rule and I'm relying on obscuring after I've charged and killed 2 guys and potentially tank some of the shot, the difference between Nurgle Legionnaire and Nemesis Claw is just going to get shot off the board 9 times out of 10. The Nurgle Legionnaire or the Warp Coven operative is going to sit there and laugh at the Corsair or the whatever they're getting shot with because they have such good defensive ability. And
that's what you said. Anyone who can't ignore P1 is going to get shot apart.
The point that I want to make is, didn't the Eldar kind of fuck Talos up? So isn't this lore accurate?
Yeah, he got killed by Jane Czar, literally the top I forget what the name of the not
Isn't she the
autarch.
Banshee?
Yeah, she's the Banshee, whatever the
Phoenix
name.
Lord.
Yeah, she's the Banshee Phoenix Lord, literally the best fighter in all of the Eldari Empire.
Well,
next
I
to,
mean,
like,
the
Listen,
rest of his company, they
which also I'd like to mention, they killed Jane Czar by blowing her up with a grenade, by the way.
they did. So
Listen, the
you have a
Eldar can't
50-50 win
They
rate
can
here,
only
and that's pretty
trade.
good.
Yeah, so I mean, yes, I think to your point, it is on brand that Nemesis Claw and Night Lords in general are not as tough as other Legionnaires because it goes into their playstyle. So you're correct in that it's thematic. But to go back to elves, because I think we've kind of harped on the point, is Corsairs are incredibly strong. And my recommendation to folks, outside of making sure you're checking their measurements, because I think a lot of Corsair players get a little too excited about their movements and maybe overestimate a little bit. So make sure you're doing that. At the end of the day, what George said is correct. They are fragile. They are going to whiff a lot of their defensive rolls because a 4-up save is very swingy. So if you're playing elites, just hit them hard. Trading 2 for 1 is what you want to be doing. And if you're a horde, I mean, if trading 1 for 1 is the game you want to do there. But I know George really wants to talk about hand.
I do enjoy my Hand of the Archon. It
I do
is
too.
certifiably my absolute favorite team last edition. I've gotten the chance to play one game with them so far, and I'm playing a bunch of different teams to see like how the game feels with a bunch of different stuff. And boy, do they feel so much more flexible and reliable, and that's a thing because they were already like, I rolled 3 crits or I rolled 4 crits like anytime you need them to, and like they can somehow, they're more reliable and more durable than they were before.
Yeah, the big thing with them is, honestly, I think the biggest thing for them is the warriors getting a pain token from somebody else. So you're starting the game with 2 guys getting effectively APL3, which is what you're going to use them for in turning point 1, is massive. And I think it's also the reason why they lost Fleet of Foot in exchange for gaining that. And I think it's a worthy trade. This team has always relied on getting momentum, and I think that they've gotten even better at that. They retained a lot of their deadliness on top of just flexibility to do so many things that you want with those pain tokens. I God help you if you're playing anything that's a horde into these guys, because they will chew you apart.
Yeah, I really like if you're playing a team that has 8 wounds. Like we played a game as Hand, Joe. I was Hand, you were Aquilons.
Aquilons, yes.
And late in turn 2, I activated my heavy gunner, and you said, "Who are you going to shoot with your heavy gunner?" And I went, "I switch to engage and I charge and fight."
Yeah.
And I was and you're dead.
Being able to give, like, I really, and this is a side conversation me and George had, the fact that you can, I really, really like the warrior models for this team. The fact you can make them 3/4 lethal 5 and have APL 3, so into hordes, and I like it's into hordes in particular, you can, starting the turn, shoot, you have the pain token, so you're going to give them APL 3 more than likely. Very likely kill a 7 wound model, because with that lethal 5, and especially if you from Darkness Death them, you are probably going to kill that model. Then charge, and then you've already gained a pain token, fight, go lethal 5 rending, 4 attacks, and then kill another 7 wound model and gain another pain token to most likely dash away. That is so much efficiency for one model, not even your specialist, warrior.
You could not dash and give yourself 3 APL. The only
right, because you can only use Invigoration.
You can only give yourself Ceaseless and something else.
Yeah, Ceaseless and something else. Which either way, I mean, still giving them APL 3 and being able to give them like Ceaseless defense dice or Ceaseless attack dice.
It's so good. Ceaseless defense dice is amazing.
The fact that with being able to give anybody on the team that is on a melee specialist lethal 5 rending 4 attacks 3/4
and a guaranteed crit with From Darkness. So like, yeah, the Crimson Duelist will activate From Darkness that guy. I'm gonna charge and fight you. I hit on 2s, so I rolled 4 hits. I'm lethal 5 rending. I roll 1 crit, 3 hits. Rending pops a crit. From Darkness pops a crit. Like in the worst case, you're rolling 3 crits in a hit, but you're probably getting 4 crits.
Shout out to my boy Brett from Six Sided Legion, who was probably I think the best Hannah Barcon player in the country. I had the pleasure of playing him at ATC and being on their podcast many moons ago. I haven't had a chance to have a conversation with him, but I know he is very happy with the way that Archon has turned out. They are very, very. Yeah, I'm very tempted to play them tomorrow in our league.
I'm very happy the way Archon have turned out. I love how you get 3 gunners. You get a gunner with your Blaster Shredder, you get a heavy gunner, and then the Disciple of Yelindra just has a 3-5 lethal 5 pistol that makes people explode.
That you could also turn to 4-5, which is just
so it's just another gunner.
And then on top of that, if you were 3 APL, you can just poison somebody on top of that. So it's like this team is super flexible, and I think they're getting a little slept on right now, to be honest.
They're not as fast as Corsairs, but they're not as killy. But what they trade is reliability, a shockingly consistent amount of damage that will go through because of so many crits, and they are more durable than Corsairs with ceaseless defense dice, with out of sequence healing, and the ability to dash to safety. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Ceaseless defense dice. You can get ceaseless on your on a 50-50. Let me tell you how much you're going to be saying, I take no damage. It's going to be a lot.
Yeah, they are more. I think they're the second most durable elf team, because Void Dancer Troop exists.
And on that topic, yeah, the clowns are looking like they're down to clown again. Another team that I think is getting highly slept on. The fact that I think people are a little hesitant to get back into clowns because they just don't have fly anymore, but I don't think it matters.
They climb for 1 inch no matter the distance, which is super powerful.
It's so, dude, if you've played any amount of games on Volcus, the fact you can go all the way to the second floor on Volcus for 1 inch of movement is insane. The fact you can put your Death Jester, pop him up there, and have him be a threat the whole game, and not even to mention he can get off of that perch fairly easily as well with 3 APL, so he can also get off of there in ways that other teams can't.
I think what is the most important thing on Volcus terrain isn't that you can climb up to the top real easy, although that is important. It is the non-reciprocal charges you can get off.
Oh my god, dude. It's
up and down and across the vantages, or even going across the two jumps, 2 climbs it would do to go into the stronghold and then back out the stronghold. Like, that's 4 inches for other teams. That's 2 inches for you.
And there's been like a lot of talk about like, whoa, well, it's crazy how they drop for the normal cost as opposed to dropping for 1 inch. You know, thematically that would make sense. But if they were dropping for 1 inch, like they were climbing for 1 inch, they like that asymmetry would be absolutely insane.
Most drops are already 1 inch. Most climbing is 3 inches, and you lose 2 inches on the drop. So like, effectively, most drops are 1 inch.
I'm used to the old edition where most climbs are 4 inches.
Yeah, like it's in the old edition, drops were 2 inches. But in this edition, they're 1 inch. You just, whatever your drop was, subtract 2 inches from it, and that's your tax. And most are 3.
Here's the thing too. They got better in melee. The blades getting severe.
I think that's actually worse than balanced, because it used to just be balanced, right?
Right, but remember, they get balanced from the accolade, and you hand out accolades like candy on this team. In my opinion,
if you play it well, yes.
And also bear in mind, it's 5 dice, so
it's still really good.
Yeah, I was about to say, and I'll be honest, I don't think you take any other weapon other than the blades, to be honest.
I can see taking Embrace and Caresses from time to time.
Yeah, I think with the change to the accolades to not like guarantee a crit, I think the kiss has definitely lost some of its luster.
I think all of them have lost their luster in that case, because if you can't guarantee crits, what's the fucking point?
Well, you can guarantee a crit with a blade.
That's
And
my
on
point.
5 dice, you're not unlikely to roll a 6.
It's
But since we're talking about the Say of Death, let's talk about the Say of Death so people aren't
Yes,
super confused. In the Say of Death, there used to be a whole fucking laundry list of things to do with your Say of Death, but now there's only 2. You can give yourself balanced in melee or balanced in shooting. Congratulations, you figured it out. And so you pick a Say of Death. You pick one model to be your pivotal role. He gets the bonus. And then every time your pivotal role does the thing on that Say of Death, you get to pick someone else to get the bonus. And then every strategic, as a strategic gambit, you can then pick someone else. So like, if your pivotal role does nothing all game, you're handing out the accolade to
3
people plus the pivotal role. And on an 8-person team, 50% is not bad. But if your pivotal role is doing stuff, then you get it in the strategic phase and also once again, yeah. So I think that getting balanced in your ranged weapons is more useful.
It is.
Because you already have 5 attack dice hitting on 3s in melee. Everything's 4/5. Severe is really good.
And let's also not forget, you can give all of your pistols Dev 1 now.
It's just so ridiculous. It's so good.
Now,
I know, it's only once per turn, I think.
Right, but for people that don't understand, all shuriken pistols have rending. So if you're shooting the pistol and you get a crit and at least another hit, it is a minimum of Dev 2. Now, I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but it adds up, especially if you're trying to do chip damage, especially against elites. You set up the shot, shoot especially since pistols are 8 inches now. Shoot, hit the double dev wounds that gets them into likely 8-ish wounds. Now you go in, murderous entrance them for a double tap, and then you move away. It's wild.
It's really good. And the best thing is that players can just you can just on one player be like, this firefight ploy is free on this guy.
Yep. That's really they have one of the best warriors in the game. It's really good.
I charge you with my 4/5 severe melee weapon. I got exactly 2 hits. I'll just use murderous entrance to hit you for 9 damage before you can do anything about it.
And then we haven't even talked about like the quote unquote specialist models. The Shadow Seeker. Oh my god, her powers are so good.
Dude, Mirror Minds used to be okay. Every so often I do like 3 or 4 damage with it and be like, oh, that's cool. I that was worth doing. Now it does D3 for each pair.
Yeah, to a maximum of 8. But still,
that's enough to kill a lot of models.
And it's also more than enough to severely injure a Marine, which is the question on everyone's mind. She's also just like a stun machine. Like, you just stun models left and right. It's crazy. And then the Death Jester is as good as it always was. Because remember, the Shrieker Cannon can also get Dev 1.
I mean, I will say that the Shrieker Cannon did sort of lose its popcorn ability.
Yes, very much so.
But it didn't. Because they retained their move and shoot in the middle of your movement ploy. And that no longer has the carve out for the Shrieker Cannon. Now you have 7 inches of move. So before you could move 6 inches and you didn't have to pay for it. You'd buy that with your equipment points. Now you have to pay a command point to do it, but you have even more movement on it.
And bear in mind, like that, like clowns never had extra movement, like in terms of like moving further than the normal 6. So that on top of being able to dash with the extra APL and like
and climbs costing 1, that suddenly they can charge everywhere.
Yeah, and that's and Cigarette's just being still basically the same with the caveat that you can only do it once per sequence, I think is what it is now.
Yeah, which is a significant nerf. It went from bonkers, crazy, ridiculous to just good.
Which, for those of you that don't know, basically the way it works is when you roll your dice. I forget the stipulation.
Yeah, so if your opponent strikes you in combat with a normal hit, if you roll underneath their hit stat, it turns into a block.
Yeah, so it's really good against guys that hit on force.
It's
'cause
just
you're gonna be
really
hit-
good.
It also is just just really
I couldn't tell you the number of times last edition where I'd fight a Space Marine and they'd roll 4 hits and 3 of them turned into blocks.
Yeah, it was really good. I mean, unfortunately, that particular scenario won't be happening anymore, but still very
one
good.
block is probably enough with a murderous entrance.
100% it is. And being able to just like, oh no, the combat didn't go well. I rolled a bunch of 1s and 2s for 1 hit, and then just being able to plie your way out of that combat is very, very strong.
It's like, oh, that was 1 hit. Severe turns out to a crit. Well, that's all I need for Curtain Falls. Bye.
And this isn't even mentioning they kept the fusion pistol, which is an incredibly strong shooting weapon that will likely severely injure and in some cases even outright kill a Marine.
Yeah, dude, just charge a player into a Space Marine, dump it with 5 damage, the 5 damage crit, at Curtain Falls out of combat, and then just shoot in the face with a melta pistol. Like, you only need to do 9 wounds at that point, and you're probably going to get that done with the fusion pistol.
Yeah, it's there. It is the one outside of the Neurodestructor. I will say the Neurodestructor has lost a lot of its zing because most of the elite teams can ignore piercing, so that's a problem for them. Also, a thing we haven't really discussed. Clowns having access to smoke grenades and stun grenades scares the shit out of me.
You know what is really nice? Clowns with access to crack grenades.
That I'm less whatever, because I think people are discovering that unless you have a grenadier or access to reliable rerolls, the crack and other grenades are not great.
Yeah, honestly, now that I think about it, you're probably right. Yeah, but smoke grenades, like clowns with smoke grenades.
Fun thing that Nemesis Claw can do is they can give that crack grenade relentless against Imperium teams that are Adeptus Astartes. That's fun.
Yeah. The Jaeger tracker can give his crack grenade Seek Light, Punishing, and Ignores Obscuring.
And if you play the Hearthkin Salvagers and you've got Proximate Firepower up, all of your operatives are Grenadiers who throw crack grenades that hit on 3s.
Dude, it's sheer lord. Man, that was the hardest part of our game, man. So when I was killing so many guys, but it's just like, oh, I get 3 crits, and I just picked the bottle off the table because I know I'm just not surviving that.
Yeah, crits are good. Crits are good against elites.
So let's talk about our elven stepchild in the room, shall we? Blades of Cain.
Only thing I have to say is I gave them a great idea for how to buff Blades of Cain, and they didn't listen to me.
Blades, I'm sorry, Eddie. I know you actually spent a lot of this particular evening ranting on why they're still okay. I want Eddie, you particularly, to listen close. They're really bad.
I don't think they're really bad. I just don't think that they're. I think they're good, and that's not good enough in this.
No, I think they are. I think they are laughably bad.
I think they're good, but I don't think good is good enough.
Joe, let me ask you this. The idea of that Void Dancers are the better 3 APL elf team, what is it that the Blades of Cain need to be on the same level as Void Dancers?
Consistent ways to kill elites that are not melee. And that's not going to change. So get fucked. Their problem right now is they have close to 0% chance against elites. Oh, they have power swords. You can make them hit worse. Okay, you're still 8 wounds. You're not tougher than all the other elves. You can't 2-tap them anymore unless it's Phobos. You know, it's like, oh, Mandy Blasters, and you can strike them with before anything and do chip damage and 3 APL. It doesn't matter if I just take my Stalker Bolt Rifle, aim it at your head, shoot once, and likely kill an elf in 1 round of shooting with Angels of Death, or really any other elite team because they have consistent shooting. I really don't know how you fix Blades of Cain, to be honest. The closest thing I can think of is giving Scorpions a 3-up save to give them some form of defense against elite teams. I
just think you give them +1 attack. Like they should, the Banshees and Scorpions should just be 5 attacks a melee.
Maybe. I think that's another good idea.
But they are much more reliable. They have ceaseless instead of balanced. So they are very reliable melee. Their melee isn't to be like washed away. And hitting on 4s does matter because I played a mirror, a legionary mirror where we pop the Slanesh ploy, and even Space Marines are like, all right, I guess instead of 4 hits, I've got 2.
To which then they flex into Zeech and just shoot you to pieces.
Yeah, but if they're trading 1 to get mostly fucked up on another one, like you're eventually gonna win.
But that's the thing, is that you don't like
trade.
let's take the Nemesis Claw matchup, right? Because theoretically that's a they don't have all the resistance to damage in the same ways that Legionnaire Warp Coven does, right? Nemesis Claw can very consistently one-shot them in melee with "We Have Come For You." I think 4 out of the 6 specialists with like getting a 2 or a 3 up on the D3 will just one-shot an elf with a crit. That happening on Corsairs is nowhere near as big a deal as it is against Blades of Cain, because your 3 APL operatives matter way, way more. And the fact that they can do that and then immediately go to the next model and then also kill that model, you've lost that game.
So I think you're not taking into account that they have 7 inches of move base, so they can just be outside of your charge range.
Once again, you just shoot them.
But if they're on conceal and cover, you can't just shoot them.
Right, and my point is that you're at a certain point you can only play the distance game. At a certain point, you either have to play the mission or which tack up deck. Do they get all the tack up decks effectively
No,
again?
I have no idea. All I can say for sure is that I think Blades of Cain have counterplay into elite teams. It's not going to be easy. I'm not saying they're gonna auto win.
I think
it's going to be tough.
I think it's close to auto win. I think it's that bad.
I think it's tough, but they can do it. But they have to play smart. They have to.
If I could give you an example, before we move on.
And they have all the archetypes depending on who.
They struggled into elite teams before the last edition or the new edition. Now, not only have we turned that dial up to 11, we've ripped the dial off for some teams on the elite side, and then we've taken.
I agree with Eddie that I think people just haven't figured out how to play Blades. They just see their stats and they have a few bad games and go, "This team sucks. I don't want to play it."
I think of anyone, I played the most Blades of Cain next to Eddie, probably more than Eddie at this point. I'm telling you, the fact that they got nerfed instead of buffed in like you can argue, okay, well they get ceaseless and but at the end of the day, ceaseless is not enough of a buff, and other than that they have remained unchanged. I think the designers went, oh, APL 3 is good enough, and they're so afraid of APL 3 that any kind of buffs that they give this team, they're afraid is going to break them. But at the end of the day, something I already discussed is they don't shoot. They have no shooting of any kind outside of shuriken pistols, and that will always be a weakness of the team. So if you're buffing them on the melee side with like an extra attack, or even giving them a little more defensive ability with armor saves and whatever, I think they're so afraid that would like put the team like up like dominant because of their ability to like fight twice and shoot twice and that they would be too strong. When I'm looking at Corsairs playing all this weekend, and I'm like, Corsairs just have it all, and I just find just find it so laughable that comparing Blades of Cain to really any of the teams that have come out up to this point, not even Eldar teams, that they looked at that and went, this does not need changes. Like Inquisition, like we already touched on this, but comparing any of these teams to Blades, and they didn't get any form of buff, and in fact they got weaker in a lot of ways, is wild to me. And it just only speaks more to the theory that like sometimes certain designers like more teams than other teams. I think
I don't blame the designers though. Like the way that I've been thinking about it is nobody's going to bout 1,000. Not every team is going to be 100% balanced, and the meta is not going to be 100% balanced on new release.
100%.
We're going to have data slates, and the nice thing about Blades of Cain is that it's one of the more recent teams, right? So this is a team that's going to be tournament viable for the next 3 years, and that's all classified events.
And I'd like to point out too, they're gonna, assuming we don't get any more elf kill teams this year, they're gonna be one of 2 Eldar teams left. It's gonna be Archon and them. So that's something to keep
And
in mind.
Mandrakes.
That's what I want to get to. Is I think that we all agree here that what we think the best 3 elf teams are Corsairs, Hand of the Archon, and Boy Dancers. Mandrakes got a few tiny nerfs, but otherwise were very, very oppressive at the end of the last edition. I think they're still good, but what is it about how things have shifted amongst the Aeldari landscape to leave Mandrakes here in Joe's forgettable pile, just at the bottom of the barrel?
They don't have free movement. They don't have any way to cheat APL outside of this one guy kills someone. Their shooting is very strong, and their melee is pretty strong. Like, they have elf killiness, but they are not particularly durable. They're not particularly fast. They're toxic AF. I think they're just mostly fine. They're mostly okay.
And honestly, I think they kind of have the issue that old school clowns did, in that the toxicity issue. I think particularly because they fuck with so harshly the way certain teams play. I think it's a lot of like feels bad to even play the team. So that actually plays like a huge reason like people don't play them. I mean, I think this is a particularly prescient example. There was, I think, not a single Mandrakes player, or maybe one Mandrakes player at Nova, period. And Mandrakes were one of the best teams in the game, like at that time. So I think that speaks to the level of like toxicity people are willing to deal with a particular team.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I also think that, so much of their power is like really, really concentrated in their operatives. And I mean, I think that they'll be good on Volcus. I'm really trying to figure this out because it's the only elf team that I have, and I painted them and I like the way they look. So I want to get them on the tabletop. I feel like they're probably pretty good on Volcus, right? Like, there's so much heavy terrain on Volcus.
Yeah, they're fantastic. Because the team falls apart unless you're in Shadow. Like, if you're just not in Shadow, you lose.
Mm-hmm. One of the few teams that could probably take a heavy barricade and be like, that's actually a good equipment choice.
Yeah. I'll just give myself some way to teleport over here where there's only light terrain.
Can we talk about how bad the heavy barricade is as an equipment choice?
It's no,
bad.
It's not. It is built for a very specific scenario, and that is a scenario in which your tournament person, your TO, has fucked up royally and made very bad boards, and you really would like some heavy in your deployment zone. And that has not come up yet because we've all been playing Volcus, and Volcus is not lacking heavy. So I think that's why it feels that way.
I mean, even like the general trend, I think, for the next year is going to be to play the crit op maps. I've heard talk that like LVO, they're going to be making some of their own maps. Like, I mean, especially around here in the Triangle, I think we're probably going to be playing mostly the crit op maps. And I like the crit op maps so far.
I do too. I mean, and shout out to Dakota over at Squad Games. They've always done their own thing.
I loved those asymmetrical ITD maps they had last edition. They were awesome.
Yeah, that's they're always kind of innovating over there, and I really will love to see what kind of things come out of LVO this year. But we'll see. It's really hard to design boards, especially asymmetrical boards particularly on Into the Dark, and we'll see what the community reaction. So far, it seems like it's been pretty positive.
Yeah, well, the official ITD are asymmetrical, which is nice.
Like I said earlier, I played all 3 of my games at this tournament over the weekend on ITD, and the door tax for 5-inch movement teams is rough.
Oh yeah, we should mention we our lovely TO George ruled the barbed wire as insignificant, which is a pretty big change.
Surprisingly, nobody took it in any of my games.
No, but shout out to Scott, who plopped a barricade right in front of the door on one of those maps, and it was a motherfucker for Eddie to get around.
2 other thoughts I had from the tournament. One, I'm really liking where salvages are at. We're going to talk about Xenos teams in a couple weeks. I think that salvagers are certainly going to be amongst the pantheon of the best teams for Xenos. I need to wrap my head around how to play them well on Into the Dark, because I think I ran into some struggles with that there. I think when you're on Into the Dark with this team, it's kind of like the thing we said about slow dwarf teams last edition, where it's just very hard to pivot to plan B once plan A starts to fail.
Well, I think the big thing there is the accessibility rule, right? The fact that
That's what I'm saying. Like the door tax now, it's
yeah. Let me tell y'all, if you've not played Into the Dark, that door tax fucking hurts a lot.
It effectively means most teams can't move through 2 doors in one activation.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I think the only teams that can are elf teams. So that's gonna be.
But I think this is a good conversation to have next week. I did play Jaegers, a lot of that Into the Dark, so I've got some thoughts on that.
Yeah. So speaking of thoughts, the league starts tomorrow.
Yeah.
Which we have, as of right now, 24 people signed up, I believe.
Maybe
it's
25.
25.
Yeah.
So it is not unfair to say we are going to have a lot of data to talk about in the next coming weeks. Particularly when we get to the end of the league, I think having a massive conversation with our good old TO Mark French is definitely going to be warranted. Man, it almost feels like this is going to be a different game by the time we get to the end of the league, because things will be so figured out by then. At least one would think. And we'll likely have the new Orc team and the Ratlings out as well, which we haven't talked about. But
we'll have Plague Marines too, man.
And man, we got that today, man.
Let's fucking go.
I hope they're good. My big worry for them right now is going to be what's their movement stack going to be?
5 inches.
Yeah.
They need, if that's the case, they're going to need some major defensive buffs.
They're going to be 14 wounds with that 5-up damage reduction, or they're going to be like 16 wounds.
They'll reduce piercing by 1.
They could also do what they did with the Compendium version, where they have the Plague Bell, that if you ring the Plague Bell, their movement goes back to normal. I can see them doing something like that too.
Yeah.
I mean, they're also probably going to have like infected weapons that slow down operatives that they hit.
Have you ever looked at the Compendium version of Death Guard, Mark?
No, I've never played Compendium because I'm
he's a baby.
You're a baby at this game. I would 100% look at those rules, because that's what I would be expecting, because
I will not. I will wait until these new rules come out. But as I said earlier in Discord, I'm very excited for the Plague Marines. I think that they look super cool. I'm excited to like really sink my teeth into an elite team, because it's not a play style I've ever really tried out in any serious way.
So I know, George, you said you're going to be hopping around teams trying to figure out what you like for the league. Mark, you going to be doing that as well?
Yeah, I imagine that I'll probably like not play like a new team every week of the league, although I'm certainly tempted. I also do want to play like a lot of different teams to just kind of see how things feel like in different play styles. Like what I'm looking at right now is I do want to play more Gellerpox just to see how they're doing. Like I played a Gellerpox game, and the things that were good about them are still good. They just have to work harder to do some stuff, and I'm still not ready to shovel dirt on them yet. I've got my Brood Brothers painted up. I want to play them. I mean, there's so many teams I want to play, dude. Commandos are still really good.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy the amount of choice we have. For me, I think I've narrowed it down to 3 teams. I'm looking at Hand Scouts and Nemclaw again. I do actually, as I'm sitting here right now, have my Angels of Death that I need to finish as well.
Dude,
same.
Yeah, because man, let me tell you, when people get those teams finished, we're gonna see that fucking team everywhere.
I want to put my Obliterator on the board. I got my Chaos Angels of Death conversion, and like, man, I want to see my Oblit back on the board. I'm gonna paint that up so I had a Chaos Space Marine army back in 3rd or 4th edition, back when I was like just entering the hobby, and it was painted like doo-doo. So I stripped it. And that's the last time I'll strip a model, I swear. I'm not turning into a painting person. And
Oh no,
I'm
none
excited
of us were
to-
afraid of that, George.
I'm afraid of it. Is the problem?
Oh no, George, you put effort into your models? This man has committed war crimes when it comes to modeling, let me tell you. This
Well,
man
I'm
got
about to commit some war crimes, dude. My 2 hobby projects right now are Inquisition and then Plague Marine conversions to play Warp Coven with.
Yeah, that's
God.
so good.
I'm going to use Felgors for my Zangors. It's going to be dope.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely I've thought of and this is before Night Lords were good. I was or before Warp Coven was good, I mean. I was working on a conversion for Night Lord's version of that, and I was doing something similar. Making them more batty. But
I remember
it's a
that.
fun
I
one.
remember that because that was at the height of your rampage of like people proxying their Marines in for the Night Lords, and then you immediately proxy Night Lords in as another Marine team.
Yeah, of course. I mean, because that was never serious. I was never actually like, oh,
We all know
was,
that availability of models was a problem.
Yeah, 100%, and that was 100% just a joke about just like because it is funny if you did proxy Nemclaw as another team. Because all of their rules are so Night Lords flavored, it's not even funny. Like all of their ploys are Night Lords references. So I imagine shout out to Nick in our league. He has them as flesh terrors, his Nemclaw, and I just like as a loyalist, it's so weird, like saying we have come for you or like any of those. It's I just find it bizarre because I'm so into the lore, and a lot of people just aren't in the same way that I have lore autism. Yeah, I'm really, I will say tomorrow, I think, oh, actually, I didn't even, so tomorrow will be my 11th game actually of this
Brag
edition
about
because because I got 3 games in, I'd forgotten I got 3 games in during the weekend. And I really, really like this edition so far. I think the only issues we have, well, we need an FAQ badly, and a not like a baby one. We need a very extensive one. Because I think once those get cleared up, I think things will be fine. I do think there are some balancing issues. I do think some teams need to be a little turned down a little bit.
I disagree. I think teams need to get tuned up. I think
agree with
the way
George.
that Corsairs are, every team should be at that level. They should be fun, they should be flexible, they should be able to get their game plan down, and that game plan should reward you with kills or points or whatever you're going for.
Sure. But at the end of the day, it's always easier to tune down than tune up.
I mean, I agree. Which is why it happens more than making teams better.
Yeah,
which is a damn shame.
But what we can do is we can buff other things besides teams too. Let's go ahead and buff the heavy barricade. 4 inches of your deployment zone would make
6
so
inches,
much
like
better.
the old light barricades.
Yeah, I think that would be insanely good if you could do that. Yeah. Let's buff the ammo crate right now. Spending a whole equipment point on a single reroll during the turn is a little tough.
Man, I saw people taking that, and I was just like, like, why you be silly? You think this is so much better than it actually is.
Equipment is so good right now. So that's the thing, is it's not like it's terrible. It's just you can't spend an equipment point on it right now. There's so many other things you could take.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have a piece of faction equipment that's not 1,000 times better than a single reroll.
Shout out to the designers, man. They did such a good job on the faction equipment. Like every time I go to do equipment, like I'm so tempted to take all 4 options because like all of them have like for my opinion, for every team I play, all of them have use cases. And that's the thing too, is like there is an actual like decision to be made now. I think with equipment, and I really like the fact they made equipment part of the scouting stuff. Every decision in scouting and equipment feels like really impactful, like getting a free, like particularly Jordan, I know you like this, being able to get free from Darkness Death on like Hand of Archon to set up with the Birdman to just get a free crit from the bird is really funny.
It's real good.
So like being able to do silly things like that, the game overall feels like so much more like you're expressing your skill as a player because of the knowledge you have on those things and how you use them. I think feels a lot better. I think overall, once we get that FAQ, I think particularly regarding like a certain terrain features and just the way that like the game overall functions, with just a few like wording of like clarification. Part of me wishes, and I wonder if you guys feel this way too, the way they would do FAQs is if like there was like an actual like Q&A session of like set of like between the community and the designers, like on Twitch or something like that, to like really get and like run community polls like for people's opinions on the games. Not saying they necessarily have to follow the opinions, but it feels a lot better than kind of this weird limbo that we're in right now of like, will this get changed? Will that get changed? Because it forced us this weekend to make a ruling on the barbed wire, and LVO straight up just banned it. I know the edition just came out, but still, World's coming up very soon. And I really hope that they fix some of those problems. Otherwise, World is going to be very miserable for the pro players.
Things will get fixed. I'm not worried about it.
I'm not worried about it either. It's just the timely nature of it is what I'm worried about.
Well, speaking of the timely nature, this has been a great time with some well-natured fellows. Looking forward to talking about
Speak for yourself.
Well, I am a deplorable piece of shit, so fuck you guys.
Yeah, fuck you, I'm going home.
Fuck you in the most loving way possible.
Yeah, guys.
Ow, bitch, don't bite me.
Sorry, I bite.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Vox Scream. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, or anywhere else you get your podcasts. Please follow, subscribe, and leave us a review. Any of those things are going to help us grow. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon with another episode.